Guidance is internal.
Ignition sequence start.
3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake. 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 Because it looks so fake.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism, back with another video for you today. Well, I finally saw it. After trying to film the ISS at least 24 times, zoomed in, zoomed out, different settings, and I could never capture the shape. But the other night, I finally did. It took place on May the 29th. It was the night of the full moon at 2:13 a.m. I had a lunar transit all lined up, and if you want to find the same for somewhere near you, what you need to do is go to transit-finder.com. You put in your location, and you'll get back a list of solar and lunar passes. They're pretty rare, but you might find 1 or 2 a month for your location. So I found one for mine. It was on the full moon. I thought that was a pretty good time to get it. And here's some info so that you can see. And everything seemed to line up perfectly with what the info said as far as the time of transit being a little less than 1 second. Everything seemed to line up perfectly, even the direction, everything. It was within about 3 seconds of the estimated time. I have blocked out just a few things just so you can't reverse engineer exactly where my spot was. But besides that, everything seemed to line up quite well. So here we have a video of me just prepping to watch it. Here we are, it's about 2:10 in the morning, and we're about to watch the ISS cross. I've never seen the shape of the ISS, so we're about to see how real that is. Check back with you momentarily. So all in all, I felt pretty good about seeing it. I knew that the moon was going to keep moving, so I had to plan ahead a little bit, just make sure that I wasn't moving it during that minute period of time that it would be crossing. So I was kind of keeping it moved ahead of time. And then something weird happened right after I made that little video. So it was about 2.5 minutes before the pass, this happened, which I assume is a bird. Certainly looks like one. So I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to show you that this bird here, I'm going to slow it down for you a little bit, and you'll see a bird seems to fly. I'm not sure what direction, but seems to fly in front of the moon. So that was pretty interesting. Caught that, and then got the camera steady and ready for the transit. My alarm went off on my phone, and I knew I had 10 seconds. I counted down in my head: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I remember waiting, like, what? And then sure enough, there it was. So it was within 2 or 3 seconds of what time it was supposed to, I think. And here we go. We're going to watch it again, this time at 50% speed. Go ahead and see it if you don't see it. Starting about 2 o'clock and ending around 8. Again, now we're watching it at 75% speed. And finally, we'll watch it at a super slow-mo 10% speed. Starting around 2 and ending around 8 o'clock. After this, I'll go ahead and zoom in so we can get a little closer look, and it was confirmed that the ISS is at least taking the shape that it's supposed to. Now again, I've shown before that this could be easily faked by somebody who wanted to fake it. I have no need to fake it. This is an actual video, and here we can see it as close as basically I can get, and it looks to be the shape of the ISS. Does it look a little weird? Yeah. I mean, does it look like a blob? Yeah. But I have no reason to doubt that whatever is flying in the sky has the shape that the ISS is supposed to have. Now, one thing I did do, just because I wanted to kind of verify it a little bit further, is I took this particular image of the ISS, or supposed ISS, and the first thing I did was I chroma keyed it to take out all of the black, and now you see that, and I put it in front of the moon, and then I was able to reduce the size and get it down to the same size as the blob crossing. Spun it, turned it the right way, and overlaid it It certainly looks to be the correct dimensions of the ISS. Fit right over it, just like that. And so now the question becomes, do I believe in the ISS, or that the ISS is what I can see flying above my head? Well, here's what I believe. I believe that the craft that takes the pictures that can be found on the eoj.jsc website, well, those pictures are taken by a craft shaped like the ISS. That's what I believe. But do I believe that Mark Kelly and all the astronauts are actually inside said craft? No. No, I don't. Why? Well, let's go through the reasons why. First off, we have to remember that we're talking about NASA. Of all people, NASA. The organization that has lied to not just the country, but the world about the greatest feat ever by mankind. They did 6 supposed missions with people landing on the moon, all between 1969 and 1972, all during the presidency of Mr. Crook himself, Richard Nixon. Now, the images we're looking at now look so much like models, and if you've ever looked into the models used in Star Wars and the models they used in Space Odyssey 2001, you'll know that these look identical to the black box models that they made for those movies, almost to a T. And some of these images supposedly taken from the ground, I just can't buy them. This one here supposedly taken from some telescope. This one here actually places 3 of these solar panels on the ISS, and it looks nothing like it in my opinion. Not that that means that it's fake, because people are faking images, but it certainly makes me doubt some things. Then I see an image like this, and it looks to me to be a model. Remember that the size that we're looking at is supposedly the length of a football field, and this looks like a tiny little model in a little black box. Again, that's just my opinion. But let us continue with more reasons why I would never trust liars. I think Eddie Bravo said it best when he said, "I'd rather be thought of as an idiot and a moron for not trusting known liars and crooks and thieves, rather than to be a traitor for backing them." And that's exactly how I feel when you watch film like this, which looks terrible, and all the space agencies. This is from Japan, supposedly some lander that was going to the moon. And if you believe this, then you're just simply not capable of looking at evidence and reaching a conclusion, because this is fabricated completely, 100%. That's not the moon, and this craft is not flying there. So you can believe it if you want, but if you are simply believing it because men tell you to, and that's not a safe way to go about your business, especially when money is being dumped into the laps of people who just mention the idea of space. This is something that was interesting and just kind of adding to the preponderance of evidence. Back in 2015, I remember showing you this article saying that the HD live stream of Earth will now be available 24/7, which I said, what? There's no 24/7 view of the Earth. Why are they saying that? And right below in the article it says, well, there is a 24/7 view of the Earth. However, it goes offline for 40 minutes every 90 minutes. So it's like, wait a second. There's a 24/7 video feed that goes offline for 40 minutes every 90 minutes? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I'm not sure that's 24/7. But clearly they wrote an article about it, that it's now available 24/7. So they're willing to make these kind of nonsense lies, and even right in front of you. And when I make a video saying that the ISS is not 24/7, all I get in the comment section is people dropping a link to a YouTube channel that says live feed from the ISS, but it's simply a 10-minute clip played in loop over and over and over again. And people think that's proof of 24/7, shows you how much they pay attention. And in case you didn't know, I'm starting my own store, so come on by. It's called the Fake Space. We're open 24/7, so anytime you want to come on in, we're here. 24/7, except for every 90 minutes, we do close for 40 minutes. So anytime, 24/7, we're always there for you, except for every 90 minutes, we close for 40 minutes. So I'm sure nobody will come in and complain about that sign on my window at all. I'm being very honest when I say 24/7. Do keep your eyes open, however, for the occasional blue screen special. Yes, that's in one breath we say that satellites exist, while in the very next we say that we lose contact with the $150 billion orbiting space station because it's on the other side of the globe. Also, we have a special that you can give us a call, and when you do, we'll just answer the phone, and then we pretend like it's a 10-second delay. So you'll say, hello, is this fake space? And I'll say, yes, it is. How can I help you?
You do get space weather, don't you, Tim?
Well, that's a very good question. Yeah, we do get space weather.
And we need to remember that they're only 250 miles up. It's not like they are some astronomical distance away, and yet we have to pretend that there's this 10-second delay. Even worse, this next issue here, let me lay it out for you. You've got Tim Peake on the ISS, ready to do a live interview with this studio audience, and you've got this girl with a hoop and a ball, and she supposedly sent this experiment for Tim to do while on the ISS. Well, Tim did it on the ISS. He did it in front of a blue checkered screen and refused to do it live.
Now, Tim, you've also been doing some demonstrations for science students, and one of those science students is Emily. Now, you've got some kit there that you actually designed for Tim, really to just show how difficult it is to demonstrate physics here on Earth. And it's a track and a ball. Just show us what actually happens there. And gravity's really just pulling that ball back down. Now, Tim has actually done the same experiment. You weren't able to do it live, but you weren't able to do it live, but you weren't able to do it live, you weren't able to do it live, you weren't able to do it live. But we don't seem to have the video, unfortunately. But the ball the ball does continue all the way around. Just explain, Tim, what's happening.
I'd rather Tim explain why he couldn't do it live. Was it that hard to bring out the little hoop and ball? Or is it because the blue checkered backdrop allows them to basically CGI that apparatus into his hand? And that's why he's standing so still.
Yes, again, it's one of the phenomena of microgravity. It's a wonderful environment to demonstrate some of those basic scientific principles.
That is true. It's such a wonderful environment to demonstrate some of those basic principles of physics, however, not live. It's been way too difficult to bring out the entire hoop and the entire ball to do right there on the screen for everybody. Even if he was filming it for some sort of educational video earlier in the day, there's no reason why you wouldn't have the device and the ball live for the studio audience. It's ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, these are actual videos of CubeSat launches. Not this right here, this is a little model, but all these launches are actual video. And if that's not reason enough to question the ISS, I don't know what else you need, but luckily I got tons more. Yeah, but these bunches of launches of these CubeSats are hilarious. What a joke. And on top of that, we have no secondary confirmation of the existence of anything about space. It's all NASA or another government agency. You can't count on SpaceX anymore as a private industry, as this video proves.
Under our ELV certification agreement, we're undertaking vigorous engineering reviews with the Air Force. To date, we've delivered more than 30,000 data items to the Air Force and provided total access to our internal systems to more than 300 government officials for certification. And we hope to complete that certification this year.
You gave the United States government, 300 members of that government, full access to your internal systems? There goes the whole private space company thing. Plus, we have no reason to believe astronauts. They all sound so ridiculous, they can't even say what experiments they're doing. They seem like they're just brain dead. None of them sound intelligent to me, again, my opinion. But when somebody asks you, as an astronaut, what you should do in case of an emergency, I'm assuming that's a big part of your training, is what to do on the ISS if there's some sort of a leak. Let's hear Don Pettit's answer when he's questioned about a possible leak in the system.
So can you shut these things from the outside?
No, you can open and close it from the inside.
Oh, okay, wait. On the inside, you're throwing a lever or something.
Yeah, you're turning a knob.
And it's
Opens. Yeah.
on the outside.
On the outside.
How do you do that and maintain a pressure seal between them?
O-ring type seals
No, you don't.
with a rotating shaft. All our hatch seals are O-ring type seals.
Yeah, but how... my
It's
brain's...
locked up here. Let's go inside. We can see it. And windows.
What happens if you get a leak on that?
Then you have a leak.
Okay, let's get scientific.
My brain's...
Then you have a leak.
You just have a leak. And what you would do is air.
Yeah, you would probably seal the whole cupola off. And then... There's probably a plan, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's probably a plan for replacing the mechanism. Might require a spacewalk.
by manipulating something mechanical on the inside of the space station without losing air pressure.
It's called real good engineering.
Okay.
Now, in this next quote, you can either think for yourself or you can allow others to think for you. What is the possible reason this man would say this in regards to the moon and the technology around it? Somebody, please explain it to me. It's the most ridiculous nonsense claim ever made. In the court of law, if we were looking for evidence and this is what was said, they'd be found guilty in a heartbeat. Somebody needs to explain why space travel is the only industry in the history of the world, the only technological advance ever that has regressed for 60 years, has gone so far backwards, less than 0.1% of the distance is what we're talking here. How could that be possible? How do people believe this?
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Oh yeah, I'm real sure that something that never existed and doesn't even exist today, because it's not possible, might be hard to build that back again. I could see that. I mean, just like the printing press, just like the steam engine, the cellular phone. I mean, if we destroy that technology, it would be a painful process to build it back again. Or wait, no, it wouldn't. It doesn't make any sense at all. In any court of law, NASA is guilty of lying to humanity. Our greatest feat ever never happened. I mean, here's the flight director of Apollo, Gene Kranz. I mean, will he do well on the witness stand? How would he explain 700 boxes of missing telemetry and video data?
It was all recorded on these telemetry tapes. So where is this hard evidence?
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
Could this be true? Mankind's first interplanetary exploration and the original science data is missing?
11, this is Houston, radio check, over.
If it's anywhere, it should be here at NASA's Goddard Space Center in Maryland, home to the National Space Science Data Archives.
This film you're making now, what is it? Does it have a name? I mean, have you have a name for it yet, or
you're calling it Did We Go?
Did We Go? Okay.
Doesn't have it either. The Smithsonian doesn't have it. Johnson doesn't have it.
Right. We've been unable to track it down. I mean, we don't know where this telemetry data ended up, and we don't know what path it may have taken. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not.
Okay, so we didn't go to the moon, but what does that have to do with the ISS? Well, first, tell me what astronaut I should believe. The easy question is going to be, do we see stars in space? Now, in space, there's only two different sides of the Earth you can be on. You can be on the night side of Earth, or you can be on the day side of Earth. So it's a pretty easy question. Do we see stars in space?
Have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
Yeah.
All
because
the
you
time.
can see. Because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Yeah. It's not a black void. I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
There's all the stars there, and the cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
Yeah, you can, and there's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
You see the gas. Magellan clouds of the Milky Way
you see
galaxy.
The Magellanic clouds.
Magellanic. See, I just wanted the Magellan
there's a large
clouds.
one
I didn't
and
want
a
to
small one, right?
Yeah.
And then you can see the zodiacal lights.
Whoa.
Those are amazing. Right before
the lights
sunrise.
of the zodiac.
The lights of the zodiac. The zodiacal lights. Okay.
When you looked up at the sky, could you actually see the stars and the solar corona in spite of the glare?
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Mr. Armstrong, I do realize that when you were on the moon, you had very little time for gazing upwards. But could you tell us something about what the sky actually looks like from the moon? The sun, the earth, the stars, if any, and so on?
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen, although there have been some reports of seeing planets. I myself did not see planets from the surface, but I suspect they might be visible.
You don't see stars in the daytime on Earth, not because they're not there, but because the atmosphere is aglow with scattered light from the sun. If you take away the atmosphere, the sun will still be there, but the sky goes dark. That's what the folks get when they go to the edge of the atmosphere, and they're calling that the edge of space. But when you get to the edge of the atmosphere is no longer between you and the rest of the universe, and the stars reveal themselves just as they would at night.
Yeah, you know, actually on my very first mission, we went up and when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth. But then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine.
Because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Yeah.
The cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
And when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth.
They're brighter, but they're different. And a lot of things different about them. One, you don't have the atmospheric distortion, so they don't twinkle, right? So you see lots of points. And you see lots of points, and that literally millions of them. And I live in Colorado, and you get up on a clear night in Colorado up in the mountains where there's no light, and you can see all these stars. Well, multiply that by 1,000.
And we could not see stars.
The sky, of course, was black, but it had sort of a velvet sheen to it.
The biggest visual surprise was just how black the sky was. You have a brilliant sun, brighter than any sun you normally would see, even here in New Mexico. You have these extraordinarily high mountains. We were in a valley deeper than the Grand Canyon. But then you have this black sky, a sky blacker than black, as the old Vidicon expression used to be.
Just the inherent beauty of it, the velvet, bottomless bucket of the universe.
In like just hanging there in a vast sea of darkness, and the most frightening darkness that you could ever imagine.
I've often tried to explain the difference between darkness, when you turn out the lights and it's dark in here, or blackness. Blackness is the endlessness of it all. It's hard to comprehend.
I was just a systems engineer on a well-functioning spacecraft coming home. And so, sure, I had work to do, but not nearly as pressing as before. And we were oriented such that we were rotating to keep thermal balance on the spacecraft, and oriented in such a way that every 2 minutes the Earth, the Moon, the Sun, and a 360-degree panorama of the heavens appeared in the cabin window. And that was awesome. It was an overwhelming experience. And we have to realize that in space, without the intervening atmosphere, the heavens are 10 times as bright, stars 10 times as numerous, because there's no atmosphere to block the light.
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen.
I mean, so yes, the shape may be confirmed, but I simply can't believe what NASA tells me. I don't believe that astronauts get into a rocket and launch to the ISS. I don't think it happens. I don't even think any country is so dumb, so stupid, to have 4 vehicles that can easily get them to space and dock with the ISS, and then they choose to shut them all down and do that all so that they can then spend $86 million a seat to ride on the Russian Soyuz. That's a joke. I see lots of high-altitude photos. I see a ton of high-altitude photos. But that can all be automated and needs no human operators. In fact, the images show us that there is no human operators. I see no experiments getting done at all on the ISS that have impacted or benefited humanity in the least bit. I see 18 years of wasted money with 18 years of a craft in orbit providing zero. I see idiots for astronauts. They're not intelligent, they don't seem like scientists to me. They seem like they're ex-military fighter pilots who have all taken an oath and who can't even describe an experiment that they're doing on the ISS, even though they're up there for 6 months straight. I've never seen the ISS cleaned. I can't imagine what it must be like inside. A submarine takes dozens of people just to keep it going, just to keep it maintained. The ISS at times has 3, and it's the size of a football field. I've seen the reflection of the ISS from the ground, and yet come inside and looked at the replay of the camera view, and there's no bright reflection, it's just a dim yellow light. How am I able to see that from the ground? I've seen and filmed the ISS from the ground when the sky was 100% clear, and then gone inside to watch the replay and saw the ISS fly over me with a fully cloud-covered sky. Personally, I think spacewalks are a complete and total joke. There's no reason you would ever send people out of the space station and risk their lives to drill in some box. You would never design it that way. It is the worst engineered design of all time. It's simply to show you that they're doing spacewalks, to show you the Earth. It's absolutely a show. The ISS design is a joke. Sometime go look at it, look at all the plugs and cables and cords and everything that would be on the outside, and then think about how many micrometeoroids are supposed to hit the Earth every year, and just imagine that the space station just flies around and never gets hit by a thing. The idea of spacesuits is a complete and total joke. Look into the cost of a spacesuit. For what? To go out and drill in a box. It's not needed. The scuba divers and the mock ISS and the gigantic pool at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab are even more of a joke. Why in the world would you spend that much money on something that doesn't even closely emulate space? In the pool, you have scuba divers that have to go around with you the entire time and make sure your cords aren't getting caught and make sure everything that you're doing, you have all the tools you need. When you get up in space, there's no scuba divers there. So why would you train them constantly every time with scuba divers? There's never even a period of time where they train without scuba divers. It makes no sense. Think of all the training, think of all the money that's spent on employing all the pieces of that for what? So that somebody can go out and screw in a multiplexer, demultiplexer. I mean, the ISS has never provided 24/7 video footage ever in 18 years of being in orbit. They've lied about it numerous times. Earlier we found out that they shut down for 40 minutes every 90 minutes, but yet call that a 24/7 feed? Well, they have to shut down because, of course, they're on the dark side of Earth. It makes no sense. Isn't there such thing as satellites? I emailed NASA and asked them why they can't leave the cameras on 24/7, and I was told because there are places on the Earth where there is no connectivity. Well, that's a blatant lie, because during the day they have connectivity at every spot in their orbit. It's only when they turn it off at night, as if they don't have satellites. They must be incompetent because they don't know how to set a camera to the proper settings so that we can see at night. They simply have the camera go black, and then everyone's excuse is, well, you don't understand the settings of cameras. The camera isn't set to show the night. Well, why not? How hard would it be to turn the camera away from the Earth and show us the starry sky? There's actually star cameras that show night vision. Imagine how awesome that would look from the ISS. You don't think we at least deserve that for $52 million a day? They'll never do it. And you watch, they'll never do it. Again, space travel is the only technological advance in the history of the world to regress. It's gone backwards for the past 50 years, and they don't even pretend like they're even close. The constant use of fisheye lenses from anywhere of altitude is another example of something very wrong. Not to mention the fact that all astronauts only answer questions from children, and they all are pre-scripted. I mean, the list could go on, but ultimately, if someone who lied to you over and over and over said, hey, go outside at 6 p.m. and you'll see my car drive by. Okay, great. So I went out at 6 p.m. and NASA's car drove by. Who was in it? What were they doing? Who knows? I don't trust liars. Be kind, don't lie, and do your own research, because if you do, you'll never believe what you've been taught. Till next time, this has been Jeranism.